So, you've decided it would be a great idea to invest time and money in your professional development, but you want to know if your company might be able to help you with the cost. Here's the good news. Many employers are often willing to support professional development of their teams. But here's the important but hard bit. You're going to have to ask, and there are no guarantees. So in this mini training, I want to talk you through how to ask your boss for funding, how to make the approach, and how to make it as easy as possible for both you and your boss to get the answer you are after. But before I dive into that, let's discuss why you might choose not to get funding from your workplace, because there are some good reasons. About 50% of the women who work with me choose to pay for their own coaching and training. The other 50% of the women working with me have asked for some form of funding, and between 80 and 90% of them typically receive full or part funding to support their professional development working with me, either through the academy or through one-on-one coaching. In fact, it's more likely to get funding for the academy than it is for one-on-one coaching simply because of cost. So why do 50% of the women I work with choose to pay for their own coaching and training and never make that ask? Well, there are many reasons, but these include being between jobs, but recognizing that support from me is still the fastest way to land that next dream role. And by the way, the Academy includes a whole program on how to apply for jobs, get promotions, the whole works. Maybe it's considering a career pivot or move that isn't fully aligned with your employer's needs, and therefore choosing to fund coaching and professional development training yourself so you can maintain complete control over the focus and direction of your career. Or maybe it's not wanting your bosses to be fully aware of all your career ambitions. There are good reasons for that from time to time. And finally, one of the other common reasons is knowing that your workplace doesn't fund development. But I would be cautious with that one. But if you would like your organisation to fund your professional development, there are many benefits to them beyond the obvious of making you happier. In general, good employers like to see employees who are keen to grow. And this is actually key to getting any form of approval for this. You need to demonstrate that you are taking this and yourself seriously. Sadly, far too many businesses are pulling professional development budgets because of employees not participating in programs that have been offered to them. So you need to drive this and make it really clear that you care. When you do that, your boss will be engaged in not only helping make this happen, but also in the outcomes. This means you're far more likely to get noticed in terms of your skill progression and consequently viewed as ready to take that next role, increased responsibility, promotions, and much more. Sadly, far too often our bosses don't notice our skill up level without conscious effort on our own part to demonstrate that we are growing and learning. They don't just magically see you doing better. We have to give them the tools to notice and show that you are investing in your professional development. Sharing with them that progress is one really great way to do that. So let's dive into how to ask your boss for funding. There are several key steps to take, which I am now going to share with you, so grab a paper and pen or download the PDF linked below this video. The first step is to get really clear on why you want this. This isn't necessarily going to be something you share with your boss, but if you know why you want to invest the time and potentially money, you may pay for some or all of it, then you're going to be in a much stronger mindset when it comes to negotiating and demonstrating to your boss why the company should invest in you and why you're taking yourself so seriously. Common reasons I've had with other clients have included things such as recognizing that continuous professional development is the best way to stay up to date and maintain your leadership skills. After all, the best practices for leadership are changing as we understand leadership better as a society. Leadership research is one of the fastest growing areas in social psychology research. By paying for professional development in this area, you are maintaining your skills at the forefront of this leadership industry, much in the same way you might do with technical certifications. Maybe your reasons focus more on career acceleration. After all, the majority of high-flying career professionals personally invest time and money in their professional development. They don't just wait for things to happen to them. They make sure they happen by gaining the skills, tools, and support they need to make that happen. If your goal is the career success fast track, then this can be a key driver for why it's worth investing in yourself. This may be a long-term focus in terms of accelerating skills for a long-term goal, or an immediate need to land that next job or promotion. Another common reason for investing in leadership career professional development as an individual is that you want your work to be less stressful, less time-consuming, and more nourishing to you as a human. Great leadership actually reduces stress despite increased responsibilities, but you need the toolkit to get there. Those are the most common reasons I experience with my clients, and there are many more. So get really clear and focus on your why this really matters to you. Then you need to dig into how to frame this to your boss. Now, at the end of the day, your employer doesn't provide professional development budgets just because they are nice. They provide it as a business need. Even if your organization provides these budgets because they recognize it improves employee happiness, performance, satisfaction, ultimately, the driver here has one core element: money. They want employee happiness, performance, and satisfaction because it benefits the bottom line. Staff turnover is an expensive business. It is cheaper to ensure happy, well-trained, retained staff than hiring in new people to replace staff who have left. I don't say that to scare you, but to help you understand what is going to drive your boss to push for any funding, including your time, because they may fund your time as well as the money side of it. It needs to help the bottom line. And by the way, this applies to charities and non-profits as well. We all work in a capitalist society. They operate there as well. They need to get the most bang for their buck. In fact, non-profits and charities are often under far more pressure to deliver great outcomes per dollar than for-profit companies. So margins on staff perks, such as professional development, can get slashed. If you understand that money is at the bottom of any of these answers, then you're going to be in a better position to be able to show your boss and their boss why it is beneficial to the business to invest in you, because that's what you're asking for. First things first, do your homework. Check out the HR manual, go and speak to HR and your talent team. Ask about budgets for professional development. Far too many bosses say no to requests because they didn't know there was a budget. But equally, just because there's no formal budget doesn't mean that your request is a non-starter. Also ask colleagues if they've been sent on any courses or attended conferences, because conferences are often counted as professional development, and yes, that includes the entire cost from the conference fee to actually the hotel and travel bills. That quickly ramps up and can cover something like this training all in one go. These can be counted as discretionary line items in the business unit, not down in an HR central costing. So check for all avenues of how people have received professional development previously and have that list to hand in case you get the "we don't fund professional development" answer from your boss who hasn't had this kind of request before. Make their life easy. Tell them that George over there went on the conference. Tell them that Janet over there has had leadership training herself. Just because your boss isn't aware of it doesn't mean it doesn't happen. Next, it's time to figure out why the business will benefit. A great starting place is your last performance review. Where have they flagged you need to grow and develop? How does that help the business? Why did they suggest that was important? Once you have all those things to hand, match that up to the program you want to get funding for. So, for example, with the Lit Up Leadership Academy, we cover the 4 key areas that many great leaders are told they need to work on: communication, strategy, people leadership, and executive presence. But get specific. Do you need to work on your public speaking? That can be in a group meeting setting or something far bigger, maybe representing the company outside your company forum. Have you been told to work on thinking on your feet as a tool you need to be better at? Do you need to work on assertiveness, planning, getting buy-in? Get specific and show that it's in the academy. If you need help with that, by the way, I'm here to help. There is, of course, much more. Have a look at your performance review, then head over to the page all about the academy. Click the button at the top of this page or tonycollis.com/academy to find out all the things we cover. There is much more, so if you are struggling with this, book a coffee chat with me and I'd be happy to help you build this case. Once you have the core elements that you want to be working on, it's time to focus on how that's going to help your boss. You may think that's obvious, but your boss has hundreds of responsibilities other than you and your career growth. They have probably read hundreds of documents since your last review, even if it was only a couple of weeks ago. So tell them what was in the review, how the academy will help, and what projects and responsibilities you have right now or be taking up that will specifically be assisted with this training. Join the dots for them. Don't be afraid to do that. Believe me, it works. Now that you have all of those pieces, you have your why, you have the organization's why, you know the landscape in terms of likelihood of funding based on previous funding for colleagues. Though remember, no funding previously doesn't equal zero funding for you. You have the core skills you know you need to work on, and you've linked that up to the work that's going to benefit your boss. It's time to bring all that together. I suggest doing this first by email, and at the end of your email asking for a quick meeting to discuss. Some bosses may just sign off immediately, others will want the discussion, even if it's a slam dunk case. Knowing your boss here is key, but if in doubt, at the end of the email, ask if a meeting to follow up would be useful. And the final thing here, give them a deadline. Your boss is busy, and good busy bosses triage. So tell them when you need to know by. For example, be aware that the doors to the academy close on November 1st, but you do not want to wait until that final day to have the discussion with your boss. So ask for the decision a few working days before that, potentially even longer if you know finance will take a while to arrange. Those are all the pieces to the puzzle. Now, it may sound like a lot, but when you sit down and complete it, this is going to take you no more than 30 minutes, and it could be life-changing. I've included a template email for you in the PDF you can download below this video, so go get that. And once you send that first email, don't be afraid to follow up. Great leadership includes great follow-ups. People are busy, stuff drops off radars, it goes off the bottom of the screen. So put in place a system to follow up after 48 hours if you haven't heard anything back from your boss. Don't overthink it, just put a reminder in your calendar to send a quick, just checking in to see if you've had a chance to review this, reminder email after 2 days. So there you have it. There's how to make the ask. One final note. What happens if they say no? You can negotiate. One thing I've noticed employers more and more willing to do is to part fund professional development. As I mentioned earlier in this mini training, many employers are getting upset that training and coaching that is offered to staff is not being taken up. But if they know you have skin in the game in the form of money, this can hugely alleviate this concern. This also helps if you have a fixed budget that doesn't cover the entirety of what you're after. So be prepared with a counter such as, would you be willing to consider part funding this in some way? That might just tip the balance. After all, if you don't ask, you're not going to get. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning, there are good reasons for deciding to fund your own professional development. I, for example, have always funded my own coaching, which I've now had for many years. You can't coach yourself after all. But I've had training courses paid for, often ones that were mandated by my employer that weren't very good. So if you know that the academy or coaching with me is for you, and you've now listened to this training and think that asking for funding isn't the right path forward, I want you to know that that's okay. It is a huge growth moment for many of us when we realize that now is the time to invest in ourselves. For many of us, the last time we did that was college. One of my one-on-one clients who started working with me 6 months ago at her own cost, as she was just joining a new company and didn't want to ask for paid coaching, actually told me that paying for it herself and having complete control has been one of the best decisions in her career, because this entirely became about her and her development, not what her boss needs. And she's seen the results, including an early salary bump and bonuses, to the point that she's continuing to pay for her own coaching despite being offered executive coaching by her company. Sometimes the best thing we can do is to invest in ourselves. If you are in any doubt about any of this, whether it's building a case, what's inside the academy, what might be relevant to you or your employer, what one-on-one coaching looks like, or you just want to chat through whether it's a good idea to ask for your employer to fund your participation at this time, feel free to book a coffee chat with me. It's zero obligation, genuinely, and just here to help you get clarity, nothing more. Finally, if you are ready to get started, do not forget that you can join the academy up until midnight Pacific time on Monday, 1st of November. I cannot wait to meet you and learn all about you inside the academy, learn about your career aspirations and helping you put one firm foot in front of the other as you power glide your way to a great leadership career that has you excited for Monday mornings.